Today on The Art of Lifing, we're introducing our series on the secret of happiness with Canada's first happiness doctor, my friend Gillian Mandich. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Gillian, for being here with me.
I'm so happy to be here.
Exploring the art of lifing and happiness together.
They really are complementary and really one and the same when you start to unpack it, right?
Yes, absolutely. So one of the big things that we talk about here around the art of happiness or the art of lifing is that we so often in our culture get so consumed about ambition and growth and work. We work, we work to live or live to work, like that, becomes a question. And everything that we talk about here is the idea that we want to create a life on our own terms and that we use happiness as a success metric. Mm-hmm. So I'm so eager to dive into this with you. There was a quote that I saw the other day that I came across on social media that said, "You are rich when you are content and happy with what you have." Mm. And that felt really powerful to me. And I was thinking about that for all the research you've done. Can you give us a bit of background on your work and what that means maybe to you?
Yeah, I love that quote because, as someone who researches happiness, I study all different elements of it from a scientific perspective. And I think sometimes two things that really jumped out at me about that quote was one, the word rich, because we often, especially in our culture, associate the word rich with money. And really, it's a much broader concept than that when you start to unpack it. You can be rich with friends and family, with loved ones, with different emotions. And so when we untie the rich and happiness together, I think that that's really essential because all of the research shows that basically once you have your basic needs met, more money doesn't bring more happiness.
Right, because we equate rich to money, but at the end of the day, richness really is the feeling that we have, and that's based on different success metrics altogether.
Exactly, and I loved also using happiness as a metric of success as opposed to a goal or a destination to arrive at, because that's another really important distinction. And I think, especially when you look at our culture, the marketing, the advertising, it's, buy this product and you'll be happy, or do this, you'll be happy. Yes. When in reality, the outcome isn't happiness. Happiness is not a destination, it's a practice. Yes. It's something that we do every single day, over and over again. Just like if you wanted to get really strong, you go to the gym, you work out over and over and over again, and over time you get stronger. Yes. Happiness is kind of like that. It's like a muscle, and there's a lot of happiness that's within our control that we can practice. So when we take a step back and realize that, oh wait, I'm not going to be happy when I get whatever it is, and realize that it's not that destination. It's really the journey. It's what we're doing every day and checking in with how we feel. That's where we start to cultivate that happiness.
I find this very, very interesting because when I was growing up, we lived in a, middle-class family in a quiet little neighborhood with a lot of different immigrant families. And even though in our communities, like I would go to friends' houses and they lived in Vaughan or they lived in Markham and they had really big homes, there was never this feeling for me like, oh, I don't have a big enough home, or I wish my room was bigger or something like that. I was so content with the life that I had. And so if somebody had asked me when I was a child, are you rich? I'd be like, yeah, because my parents they never set boundaries in the sense of, they never said to me, we can't afford this or we can't do this. We lived within our means, but it was, we were happy in what we were doing, so it felt like enough, And so I was wondering about this idea in our culture where we constantly feel like things are not enough. If we have a 8-figure business, we want a 9-figure business. We want a 9-figure business, we want a 10 or 11-figure. We have this, and then in marketing too, we sort of teach people, as a marketer, I'm guilty of this, but we tend to teach people that you need us, and without us, you're not enough. But in your experience, would you say that that is a critical measure to really, when you feel like you're enough, you're happy, and that we have to stop looking outwards for that?
Yeah, I love especially having this conversation with you with the marketing sort of angle that you're looking at it, because a lot of happiness and what we believe to be happiness is because what we've been taught via marketing and our advertising. And it's just part of our culture. It is what it is. And that's where we have this opportunity now, especially bringing in the science of it, to really learn and unpack what is happiness actually and what are the things that we can do to be happier. clear. And I think that especially when we look at happiness as an emotion and as a feeling, when, like, for example, I'll give you an example of weight loss, right? If you want to lose 10 pounds and you say, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds. To your point, once you lose those 10 pounds, most of us aren't like, okay, I'm good, I'm great, I'm content, and I'm happy. That doesn't happen. It's then, oh, I want to lose 5 more, or oh, I want to tone up, or I want fat loss from this section of my body. There's always something more. And it's because we're not actually after that outcome, that 5 pounds. What we're after is the feeling behind the outcome.
Yes.
And so when we can see that it's not that, it's that I want to lose 10 pounds because I want to feel sexy again. I want to feel confident. I want to feel empowered and comfortable in my body. Whatever those reasons are, when we get clear on the feeling or the emotion behind the actual tangible outcome, that's when we can start to really clarify things and get really honest with ourselves, and then use that as a compass.
Right.
Because like I said, like if you're thinking about weight loss and your happiness, a number on a scale is never going to equate to your happiness. It just never is. And so if we're using that as our North Star that we're going towards, it's like we're running east chasing a sunset.
So, okay, so then if, because a lot of people want to lose weight, or they have certain goals that they want to do, how do you set your goals and create some ambition, but use happiness as a success metric? How do you add that success metric into that equation? So if I want to lose 10 pounds, how do I make sure that I'm setting myself up so that I can experience happiness in the process?
Okay, one of the big things I think with no matter what you do, Tony Robbins always says the quality of your questions determines the quality of your life. And so I love that question that you're asking, because that question of like, how can I use happiness as a success metric is very different than what do I need to do to be happy, right? Because one is assessing an outcome and one is assessing the process of it. And so I think the way I look at it is every single day, and you at home right now, you can do this. Start today and check in with yourself every once in a while as you go through your day, and start noticing what are the things in my day that when I do them, I feel more happy. And what are the things that I do in my life where I feel less happy? And oftentimes, because we're so busy, we have so much going on, even just taking a second to check in and to start to notice those things brings a lot of awareness. And then if you write it down, you can kind of look at your day and be like, okay, these are the things that make me happy, and these are the things that don't. And then you say, okay, well, how can I do more of these things in my column that make me happy and less in the column that don't? And you start to sort of transition that way. And then the other thing is, I think that happiness is an emotion. And one of the things, as a happiness researcher, I would never, ever tell anyone that the goal is to be happy all the time, because it's not. And so
it's not realistic,
no,
right?
it's not. It's sort of, we want this upward trajectory where our highs get higher and our lows get higher. And so using happiness as a success metric and compass, that's the goal. So it's, where are those areas in my life where I'm feeling happy and how can I bring more of that? And where are the areas that I'm not and how can I do less? And then over time, that starts to build, and that's where you see that transition in your life.
Right. Oh, so interesting. Okay. So, we have a lot of conversations around self-care. It seems to be something that's very positive and important. So I don't want to minimize that. But sometimes, I know for me, and I don't know if there's other people that feel this way, but I have like all these to-do lists and all these things I want to do and ambitions and things I want to accomplish, and I'm always short on time. So last week I had a client meeting downtown in Toronto, and so when I finished the meeting, I happened to look across the street, and it was the Allen Gardens was there. Now, I've lived in Toronto all my life, and I've heard of the Allen Gardens. I had never been there
I haven't been there either.
No? Okay.
No. You have to
go. So about a month ago, I was going to a friend's event, and it was at the Toronto Botanical Gardens, and in my meeting notice somehow I had put the Allen Gardens, so I showed up for her event at the wrong venue. And so I get to Allen Gardens, and it's basically like an indoor greenhouse with all kinds of beautiful flowers and greenery and trees, and it's just gorgeous. It's a beautiful thing. It's maintained by the City of Toronto, but I'm like, there's no event space here, so I'm walking through the greenhouse and I'm looking at all these things, and I'm like, I gotta come back here. I gotta spend more time here. But clearly that wasn't the event, so I showed up at my friend's event about an hour late, but better late than never, and it was awesome. We had a great time. So I left there going, I got to come back here. And then of course life happens, and I never got that chance. So then I'm at the client meeting, and I looked across the, and I'm like, it's right here. This is a sign. I need to go in. So I went into the Allen Gardens, and I just really have to say that it makes me happy. It makes me happy being around all those beautiful trees and flowers and all this sort of thing. But I had this sense of guilt in my head as I was trying to take I was like, I'm giving myself 1 hour, which I don't think is unreasonable. I'm like, 1 hour, I'm going to give myself that time. And even as I was in there and really feeling happy and instinctively, the sense of guilt kept coming up, like, you should be doing other work and there's other things that need to be done. And I'm like, guilt, go away. I am busy right now. And so I was going to ask you that when it comes to sort of searching for happiness, and like you said, these are the things that I'm happy with, I need to do more. It feels to me like there's complexities with other emotions that get in the way, right?
Oh, for sure. And I think especially as women and for everybody, guilt is a big one. We have these shoulds. Like even myself, I used to be like, okay, I need to do self-care. I need to get massages. So I would go get my massage. And then you know how there's like that circle thing, you put your face in the thing? Underneath, I was like checking my email. And I'm like, this is completely defeating the purpose because my self-care became an item on my to-do list.
Yes, yeah. And so we have to make sure that happiness doesn't become an item.
Exactly. That's the key piece is it's not for example, gratitude and happiness are highly correlated. So if gratitude is something that you're incorporating into your life in an effort to increase your happiness, which it often does, I've seen it in my own data, and when it becomes that item on to-do list, the potency of it changes. And so I think that number one, it's really important to recognize that focusing on your happiness is not selfish. It's actually one of the most selfless things that we can do. Because the research shows when you compare happy people to unhappy people are better problem solvers, they're more creative, they're more cooperative, they work better in teams, they're rated as more liked, they have more longer lasting and meaningful deep relationships, they're more altruistic, more likely to volunteer both their time and their money. So when we start to look at this, we see, wow, when I focus on my happiness, even though it feels like it's something for me and it may feel selfish at first, we can know that, oh no, it's actually allowing you to show up as the best version of yourself for other people. Right. And so by knowing that, and we all want to show up as the best version of ourselves, and by doing that, we really can live our best life ever. And so when we can reframe that in our mind and recognize that we do not need to feel guilty about focusing on our happiness, because that allows us to live the happiest, healthiest, longest life possible, because happiness and longevity are very correlated as well.
Oh my gosh, there you go. So if we want to live longer, we have to learn to be happy.
It's true.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So takeaways, things that stand out for me from what we just talked about was number one, setting up happiness as a success metric is a good idea. So let's do that with the Art of Lifing, where we can do life on our own terms.
Yes.
So don't worry about the marketers who tell you that you need this or you need that or it's not enough. You are rich when you are content and happy with what you have. So really focusing in on being purposeful with the things that we do and we have is important. Recognizing that happiness is a journey. It's not the end finish line or the outcome. And don't make happiness part of your to-do list, because that's not how it works. It's not a task that you can cross off the list, right?
It's not like fall in love, check, do this today, check. No.
Right, So would you say that it's fair to say that the secret to happiness, because I know it's like a grand overarching term, but the secret to happiness is really being purposeful in doing the things that make you happy in life, in processes, incorporating those things more into your life?
Yeah, I think because this is what I get asked a lot. Like, what's the one secret to happiness, Gillian? You're a happiness doctor, you research happiness. What's the secret? And I really think the secret is recognizing there is no secret. Yes. And we complicate things in our mind. And like what you said, like being content with where you are right now is a simple concept, difficult in execution until you get used to it. Yeah. And it really is. And I think with happiness, it comes back to knowing, okay, this is a feeling that we have and it's an emotion that we have. And when you're not striving for other things, when you can really be present with what you have right now, oftentimes when you look, people get less happy when they start to have their mind go into the future or into the past.
Very much
and so by being present right now and finding, because the other thing is, you can look and find things that make you happy or things that don't. You can find things that upset you in the world and things that make you really happy. And so recognizing, okay, here I am in the moment right now. What are those things that I'm doing that make me feel happy? That's where that sort of compass can start. And then you practice it and then it builds.
Amazing. Okay, so next time I go to Allen Gardens, and if you're in Toronto, I highly recommend you go check it out. I'm going to make sure that I try to be present in the moment, because I think that's what I was getting stuck with my guilt, was that I have to do this, this, and this, and I'm going into the future as opposed to being present in the moment.
And then you actually get a double boost of happiness, because nature is correlated with happiness to time in nature. You also see increases in creativity and problem solving. Like, you're probably even at the garden when you're walking, all of a sudden you have these great ideas because we don't turn our mind off. And with nature, we get that full sensory experience too. We get the smells, we get the colors, the textures, the patterns. And in doing that, also, it changes our mood and it often makes us happier.
I love that. And I heard that in Japan they do something called tree bathing, just to surround themselves with trees. And I'm like, I'm so ready for that.
I've heard, forest bathing, same thing, I think, right? Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
And if you're not sure, try it. Go out in nature and go for a walk. Notice how you feel when you leave and when you come back, because at the end of the day, we're our best teacher.
Yes.
And the only person that knows what makes you happy is you. And so if you're not sure, try things and check in with your mood, because you'll figure out pretty quickly what are those things that make you happy and what are those things that don't.
That's a big takeaway for me, is the checking in with how you feel, because I think that sometimes we get lost in our own thoughts and don't actually step away to say, how are we feeling? So I think that will be something that I'm going to try to practice every day now as we move forward. Thank you so much, Gillian.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed the content, then please like it and share it with anybody that you think might be interested in this content as well. I would also love it if you could subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every Tuesday. And last but not least, if you have any comments, I would love to have a conversation with you. Let's do this journey together. Let's master the art of lifing and really do life on purpose.